Thanks for listening in. Today's edition of our weekday radio talk show, Elko Live. We feature community news and local issues, but we're always pleased when we can highlight something as cherished as this community event. We're talking about the annual Elko Interfaith Creche exhibit, which is now officially underway after several days of preparation. Although with organizers here today, they've actually been working on this project for months, if not year-round. So we're going to talk about the significance of this heartwarming event where with Julie Erdley, also Jim Cooper, Francine Barrett, who's a visitor to the community and helping support the effort, and Jane Strong, who is also lending some of her talents to this event. Well, Julie, the best thing about this at first is that there's nothing to buy. It gets everybody in the door that way.
We hope so, but yeah, there's no reason to buy anything. This is if the gift of Christmas was our Savior, and He gave that to us freely, and we offer this exhibit to the community freely also.
And it's the 10th annual event.
Yes, this is our 10th anniversary. We can't believe it's been 10 years.
And you've been along for the ride the whole time, helping promote it, creating these beautiful materials, which are going to be distributed. You'll be able to see them up there.
Yes.
Okay. So the event is at the North 5th Street LDS Church. That's at 3001 North 5th Street. It is hosted by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the local stake center here. But it's important to note, Julie, that this is an interfaith community effort.
It is interfaith, and it is not just Elko. It's Elko, Carlin, Wells, the whole northeastern Nevada, really. So it's great to have all the other churches and all of us combined together to celebrate something that we hold in common.
And that is, of course, the birth of Christ. All Christian religions and faith that come together for the celebration this time of year. Time to set aside Frosty the Snowman and Santa Claus and a few things like that. And just it's nice to have a joyous occasion to celebrate with family and friends and get kids excited. They love to open presents. But this is the gift to all mankind. Yes,
absolutely. And when you walk into the exhibit and you see all the different kinds, and there's just so many made out of so many different mediums, you can't even imagine. And you look at the expressions on faces and the things that artists have done, and people that have done, you really know that this is a universal and that people have a love and an appreciation for the Savior.
And we're talking about the exhibit of nativities, also known as the Creche, the Christmas Creche exhibit, now in its 10th year on display with free admission. There's a live Christmas nativity and reenactment. There's going to be live holiday music beginning tonight and other wonderful programs right through Sunday that culminates with the Christmas devotional with the Mormon Tabernacle Choir. We like to call them around our house the Motab. Since Terry Ritz, who's now with Bonneville Distribution, he calls them Motab, so we feel pretty good about that. But so we're inviting everyone to head up there and enjoy this free exhibit. Before we start talking to Jim, because Jim's been doing this, I think, almost as long as you, Julie. You roped him in early on.
Yes.
Yes, as long. Would you mind telling us the story, though, of the really cool handmade nativity from your friend at Walmart, since he's working and he couldn't get off to join us today, right?
Yes, and many people know Richard Feathers. He's the favorite greeter up at Walmart. He recently had cancer surgery, and he had tons of people supporters for that. But he's doing well. But he was so excited when he heard that what we were doing this year was featuring the handmade and the homemade, that he got excited, and he likes Volkswagen bugs, and so he found a model of a Volkswagen bug, painted it up blue, spent time looking for the right size nativity to fit in it, and so he made his nativity out of a Volkswagen bug.
Just what I'm sure that Mary and Joseph would do in contemporary times if they found an abandoned Volkswagen bug that was handy, that they would use that as well. So.
It was a stable.
Yes, that's true.
Who knows what it would be today.
So with Jim Cooper, of course, chiming in, it's a perfect segue, Jim, into, again, why this event was created in the first place. It started out pretty small, maybe some humble beginnings, just to see where you might go. I think sort of as an open house. Was that the idea initially?
Initially, it was like that. Although, remembering back, Helen Hall's, this was her brainchild. Although I've held the same position as co-chairman the whole time, I was just riding her coattails there for the first few years. She saw this. She saw what it is today. We did start small, and it's great. there's a little bit of history that's displayed at the Creche exhibit this year that shows the evolution and kind of some of the refinements and the different things that we've done over the years. And there's a lot of people in the community that still call it the Creche Festival, because that's what the very first year, that's what it was called. But since that time, over the last 9 years, we've called it the Christmas Creche exhibit. And but you'll see the posters that have been produced and the way things have developed. But I know Helen knew that this was what it was going to turn out like eventually, and I'm glad it wasn't like that the very first year. I don't know anybody would have signed up
for that much work.
Work. So.
Well, and again, we'll talk about the many different aspects and the ways that people have contributed and managed to make it new and fresh, yet at the same time, each year it's not overly sentimental. It's very unique for individuals. I think that's what I've heard people say when I've gone to interview them and ask them about the experience. It's full of meaning and a different kind of connection.
It is full of meaning. This year we chose to focus. We call it a hook, and so each year we like to do something a little different, bring something new in, and we had the idea of asking for homemade items. The response has been fantastic, fabulous. It really has. And I think what it shows is it really shows our community. It shows that the Christmas spirit is alive and well. Just to give you numbers, not because the numbers are big, just to show you the response. A few years back, we really wanted to get as many nativities as we possibly could. And so we ended up with about 1,350 nativities. But one individual from Ely who we focused on, she brought around 450 of those. So somewhere around, the community brought around 900 nativities. We have well over 1,100 nativities displayed this year. And so many of them are handmade. So many are hand-painted, handcrafted, out of so many different mediums. It is exciting to see, and it's also wonderful to see because there was love, Christmas spirit, all that went into it. There's young children, there's adults. It runs the gamut, and it's a wonderful display this year. It really is.
All those words that you use to describe it, handmade. And really, truly humbling when you think about that, and then handed down, again, the family generations and the stories. Just what we've been seeing, some of the stories in the newspaper and on Facebook about nativities crocheted by hand from family members who maybe suffered from blindness. There was a nativity with Batman and some little toys. Maybe that was someone's personal collection, but just the way that they involved their children in relating the whole spirit of the story. And again, with Helen, I just wanted to tie that into, and we're going to talk to Francine about how she's contributing to the effort this year, about how Helen's exhibit, her collection is of the Madonna and Child, and of her beautiful prints and paintings, some original, many of them reproductions, but from famous galleries around the world. And again, just the feeling, the reason that she collected those, Julie, is because of that sense of peace and unity that it created.
It did, and she actually got involved in doing that because of, we discussed this, I think, in previous years, but that her daughter brought home a picture from church, and that really got her interested. And I think that's same spirit has happened with those of us in Elko who have been involved with the Creche exhibit. I mean, we may have had a Creche or nativity tour in our home, but then we did the Creche exhibit, and it's like, and every time you see one in a store or a catalog or a pattern or something, you go, that would be really neat to have at the Creche exhibit. And then all of a sudden your collection starts to grow and blossom, and you get that sense of that feeling that you have in the Christmas spirit and the love of the Savior and that recognition. And so, like I said, as Jim said, I think Helen saw what the exhibit has grown into.
Mm-hmm. And it is definitely spreading like wildfire. In fact, Francine heard about it. It's in the family because you've come all the way over. Is that right, Francine Barrett from Utah? So welcome.
Well, I've been involved in the Creche Festival for 10 years also because it's my son-in-law, Jim, and my daughter, Laura, who started with this Creche Festival. And so we come every year. It's kind of a family tradition, the way to start Christmas. and I love it.
Oh, and you have contributed something special this year. Is that right, Francine?
Yes, I have 15 items, handmade items, 13 or 12 quilts. And Jim asked me to last year in December to make a commemorative quilt for the 10-year celebration.
You got busy.
I did. I follow the boss.
Yes, and you
Yeah,
produced
right.
several quilts. And maybe you heard that they were in need of a little wall ornamentation since Helen's collection's not included this year. So,
Well, my quilts are all displayed on the big green wall. For those of you that have been there before, you'll know what I'm talking about. The quilt that I made, the commemorative quilt, has the themes for the 10 years on a ribbon that goes around the quilt. And then in the center is a stained glass Madonna and Child and Joseph picture. And it was made from a stained glass window and redesigned, repatterned by me and by my daughter, Laura. And it's taken a year to make. It's got a lot of hand sewing, hand applique on it. And I did all the machine quilting also on it.
wow, Francine, I got goosebumps just thinking. I can hardly wait to see it. The exhibit is open from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m., free admission. We'll be talking more about the not so much entertainment, but there is live music beginning tonight with the Spring Creek High Expectations Choir. They get things going at 5 p.m. But I like to think about, too, Francine, a lot of women, a lot of people who are involved in crafts and making, creating quilts especially. That was quality time for you and your daughter. You got to sit together.
Yeah, we drew the pattern from the stained glass window, and then I went home and redrew the pattern, blew it up, and then made the quilt from that. I have been teaching quilting for since 2002 all over the state of Utah and Idaho, and I do design patterns, so it wasn't as difficult as you might think for me, because I teach at a lot of retreats and a lot of quilt shops and a lot of other venues around Utah and Idaho.
Well, a lot of that creative process, though, again, goes into thought and reflection and inspiration. So you had a wonderful inspiration for this.
That's true, because when Jim asked me, I had no idea really what to make. And then they have this beautiful stained glass window in their home. It's on display also at the Creche Festival, or Creche, Christmas Creche. I keep calling it the Christmas Creche Festival because, you know.
A lot of us do.
Anyway, and so it was nice when I saw that glass window. Then I thought, this has got to be the pattern.
Wow. And had you done anything like it before, or?
Oh yes, I've done other things like that. It's hard to find the batik fabric, which is what this quilt is made out of, all batik.
I wonder about the colors, right?
Okay. And I went to St. George soon after, and there's a shop there that specializes in batik fabric, and I bought the fabric there, and then came home and made the pattern. I finished at the end of October is when I finished it, because of all the hand sewing.
Wow. We can hardly wait to see it. And I'm sure it will stay in the family. Maybe that's the plan.
It's Jim and Laura's
It's mine.
quilt.
Oh, she was like, oh, yeah, we're not raffling this thing off.
A lot of the other quilts have been shown at the This Is the Place monument in Salt Lake City. It was 3 Christmases ago. And then the one big Star of Bethlehem quilt was, I won a ribbon on that quilt for the best traditional quilt in the state of Utah. So you need to come and see the quilts because they're pretty. But all those other items, the beautiful handmade things, I can't imagine. I went around last night with my camera taking pictures of everything.
Oh. And so obviously being a grandmother, a mother, and the whole, it gets the waterworks going, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. We're both sitting here wishing we had our tissues.
Well, before I started quilting, I moved to Utah, and I was going to become an oil painter. But I met someone and they invited me to go to a quilt guild, and so then I started quilting.
I know lots of beautiful quilters in our community, and I hope they're listening, or at least one or two, because I know they'll come and see the Christmas Creche exhibit to enjoy the handmade nativities, but your quilting as well, Francine. We're so happy you got to share that with us this year.
Thanks.
Wow, thank you very much. What a great gift and a real treasure. And speaking of making things, I want Jane to come up and maybe share the microphone a little bit with Francine, if you wouldn't mind. Jane Strong's been waiting quietly, and I know, Jane, you've helped. I think you've also been along for 10 years of the exhibit. Is that right? If not the entire time, almost?
I haven't been actively on the committee the full 10 years, but I did serve a few years on the committee, and have brought personal displays of my own each year. So, yeah, I've had my fingertips in the pie some of the time. Some of my whole hands were in the pie other years, but...
Well, we're so pleased this year you were inspired and you've created something. And in fact, I understand it'll be difficult to escape them. They're everywhere. Is that right?
Yeah, I think it kind of overwhelmed Jim when I brought it in last night. He had no idea what I was talking about when I told him I've got this nativity tree, but I can't bring it until the very last minute. The last time to set it up was last night, and it was quite late in the evening when I got there. And I don't know, I think you were kind of surprised, weren't you, Jim?
Yes, I mean, I didn't envision it. Ask me to move a chair, I'll move a chair.
Okay.
But anything artistic, I don't. My mind doesn't work like that. So. But it's wonderful, and that's why she's here, is because it's really, really neat. I'll let her tell you about it. But
Okay.
It's great. I'm glad that she brought it.
Well, the medium I used is wooden ornaments, toll painted, and I really hadn't done much toll painting before in my life, but about 15 or so years ago, I guess I had a switch inside of me, or a shift inside of me, where I wanted Christmas to be more meaningful than I had displayed it in our home. And so, actually, I was getting kind of disgusted because I couldn't find what I wanted to decorate my home for the holidays. So I thought, okay, so I've got to do this on my own. So I started looking around at some toll painting books and found a few patterns, and they didn't look too difficult. I had a friend who had a scroll saw that she said she would let me borrow. And so I started collecting patterns and started cutting out the nativity figures and made them into tree ornaments. So they aren't really sparkly, they aren't eye-catching, they don't have lights or glitter or anything.
Batteries?
Or batteries. When the light hits them, they kind of go dead, because wood does not reflect light very well, but I still love them because it is meaningful to me that in our home we are focusing on that night when our Savior was born. And I honestly don't know how many ornaments are on the tree. I never have counted them. Someone asked me that last night. How many did you paint? And I don't know. I'm going to have to count them when I take them down on Monday.
Just because that's a question, I guess.
Yeah. But
And that's what's neat about her display, is the size of it. And I think that gives it meaning in and of itself, that it wasn't the basics, the shepherd, the wise men, Joseph, Mary, and the baby Jesus. There's a lot to it. And you can tell, well, the work, number one, but there had to be meaning and love involved in it. Otherwise, there wouldn't be that many. And to know that they were all hands sawed, painted, and the painting's wonderful. She's very talented. It may not be sparkly, but they're very well done.
Well, Jane, it sounds exquisite. So excited to see it. So it's going to be a big tree. There are a lot of
3 trees, by the way.
3 trees. Okay, all right.
I got a little carried away with the flock of sheep, and they wandered over to other trees
I see.
because
Okay.
the shepherds were focused on baby Jesus, and they kind of
There you go. And sheep do
wandered.
reproduce, and that's possible. But yes, maybe you didn't paint them all; they simply reproduced in the night. So there,
It could have
you could
happened.
explain all that too. Well, Jane, and just to hear you tell the story too, people I know listening can understand that it's about being a parent, and it's about having a mother's love and wanting to teach your children and wanting to bring your family around. We're hearing more and more about that. You think about that the night of the birth of Christ and the roughness and the primitive stable and the straw and how coarse it was, and the sheep, the wool of the sheep, and just the hides of the animals standing by, and their breath, and they stamp their feet. Just the sounds and the smells and what that must have been like, and then to think about bringing a precious, baby into the world like that, and the feeling of the, like you said, the shepherd and the Mary and Joseph there. So sounds to me like you've created something that any mother would feel in her heart, and any parent certainly would understand. So sounds great.
It was a very sweet journey for me. It was a sweet experience, even though I felt like I really didn't know what I was doing. The occasion, the love of our Savior and His birth made it a very sweet journey for me. And every year when I put our nativity tree back up in our home, it just warms my soul. It hasn't gotten old. I know some people, after they've decorated their tree for 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 years, they decide it's time for a change. I don't think I'll ever feel that way about this tree. It's a keeper in my heart.
Well, and that you would share it with us. Thank you so much, Jane. Really, you've created it just as Francine creates her beautiful quilts. Julie over the years has created artwork to go along with the Christmas Creche exhibit to encourage people to attend. Jim, you rescued beautiful wall hangings that you found. Everybody on your committee, in fact, and then people in the community have contributed in some way. And the fact that you do it from that spirit of giving and wanting to share the stories and your own personal stories, too. It seems like you've all grown in your spiritual feelings over the years, too.
That's true. And I think you hit it just right. Almost every nativity has a story, because not all the nativities were just store-bought out of a catalog. And I think something I'm proud of is that with all these handmade nativities, there's going to be a story behind it, and it won't be for just this year. It'll be 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, and I'm proud of being able to have that in someone's life, and to have that opportunity brought to them.
So we're talking, of course, about the 10th anniversary of the Elko Regional Interfaith Christmas Creche exhibit, which is underway from 11 a.m. until 8 p.m. You can go up there right now. Admission is free. The North 5th Street LDS Church. You can go when there are lots of people and families, or you can go and have that experience more in solitude if you like. The events continue through Sunday with the Spring Creek High School Expectations Choir singing at 5 tonight. Penny Nielsen's Piano School performs at 6. At 7 o'clock, the LDS East Stake Adult Choir and soloists are singing. Friday schedule includes, I'll give a plug for Olivia Rice in the Adobe Middle School. They'll be singing there under the direction of Karen Rogers. That's at 5 o'clock. Elko High School's Choraleers at 6. The sing-along with the Choraleers, that's huge, Julie. People love to do that at 6:30.
They do. People like to sing Christmas carols, and if you can sing like a choraleer or sing with the choraleers so people can't hear if you sing bad.
That's right. You sing like a choraleer. The minor chordsmen, we love those gentlemen, Elko's Barbershop Chorus. And again, that's the thing. It's all denominations. It's people who have lost connection with their feelings at Christmas, or it's become a little too commercial, but this is an opportunity to reconnect.
Well, it is, and I know we're talking about handmade and handcrafted, but the musicians that perform, they may use their voice, but it is no less than the person who paints a picture or makes a quilt or creates a physical piece of artwork, but you could call it almost a handmade offering also.
And what I love, because my husband's a theater director and he started doing that again, is that he encourages people, enjoy these live performances, enjoy these handmade creations, because it's really truly, it is the once in a lifetime event. It's not something you can DVR, is that what it's called? Play it back later, stream it. It's a very human, emotional experience that we can share together by going in person live and seeing something, enjoying it.
Absolutely, and everybody does such a terrific job. I mean, I've been saying since they started bringing nativities in, man, we've got fantastic things this year, some really fantastic and creative and talented people, and that goes that I've said it for the past, well, we didn't have music the first year, but for the past 9 years, we have talented people in Elko and that come and perform, and it is just wonderful.
Saturday will continue at noon with Mandy Perkins Piano School, the Mountain View Elementary School Choir at 1. If I didn't say Mandy, they start at noon, and then 1 o'clock. 2 o'clock, the LDS West Stake Primary Children's Choir. The Catarific Music Studio performs at 3. Saturday at 4, it's Paula Jenkins Piano School. Then on Sunday, tell us about that lineup, because you're also a musician, Julie, and I think that these Sunrise Ringers, what a great inclusion in the program.
Yeah, the Elko handbells have been around Elko for I don't know how many years, but bells always
Long
seem
time.
to be, I don't know, they always bring Christmas spirit, but when the Messiah Sing-Along started 21 years ago, they asked the handbells to come and lead that off a little bit, and that's kind of become a tradition for the Messiah Sing-Along, and then so that was a tradition before the Creche exhibit got started. We included them in the Creche exhibit, and now I think that's really a culmination and brings the highlight of the exhibit together there with the Messiah Sing-Along.
Sunday, a very special day for the final day with the musical performances and the final day of exhibit for the Christmas Creche, the handmade nativities on Sunday. And you don't have to be a church member. You don't have to know anybody who's a church member. You don't have to be a church goer at all. You can just be somebody who is really made curious, we hope, by this program and all the other local efforts to get you to enjoy this. The Sunrise Ringers at 4. The 21st annual Messiah Sing-Along, sponsored by the Elko Religious Leaders Association, that's at 5. 7 o'clock is the Christmas devotional with the Mormon Tabernacle Choir and the inspirational Christmas messages, and that's delivered via satellite, which is really neat because you're sharing that worldwide. That message is broadcast worldwide.
Yeah, that's a worldwide, and it does come from the messages come from the leaders of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, but they're universal messages.
That's right. Could be finding the message of peace, unity. There's a lot going on in the world right now, in our own community, in our own country, and this is a great place to find grace and peace. You can visit the handmade nativities. You can enjoy the music. We also want to make sure we make mention of these gifts, Julie, because the donations really add up, and we have, I think, if we don't have an actual significant increase in population, it seems as though we have more people who might be in need, who are homeless and need warm clothing this year.
It seems like that's one of those, and I'll call it a hot button issue in Elko, what the homeless and those, there's been lots of discussions. One of the things that's being done is the Joshua Tree Shelter, and they're trying to get their shelter. And 3 years ago, we started to collect gifts. And we're pleased that we were able to do this. This doesn't necessarily help get their shelter built, so I'm going to put a plug in. So if you want to help get the shelter built, I've seen the plans. It's very well organized. They've done a tremendous job trying to work that out. They do need money for that. But what we're doing in the meantime, until that shelter can be built, there are people that are in need. And so we're collecting gifts of warm clothing, socks, hats, sleeping bags, tarps, sweatshirts, anything that they might be able to use to help get them through the cold winter months. Last year, Jennifer Kidwell, who organized Joshua Tree, sent us a message after and last year it was bitterly cold at this time, that she had taken some of those gifts down immediately, and they were staying at the VFW hall at the time. They'd opened that up as a temporary shelter, and she said that the looks on these people's faces was just so heartwarming. And a lot of them haven't had new boots or things for a long time, and that she was going to run out of things. Normally, and lots of times she takes them out. They give to them as Christmas gifts at Christmas, but it was so cold that they started early, and she was going to run out of items to give them before she ran out of people to give them to.
So please think of that and share that any generosity that your family can spare this holiday season, and share a gift of something. And Jim wants to add to that?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that we are collecting these items all the way through Sunday and even Monday morning. So that's when the Joshua Tree and Jennifer will pick them up. So as you come and visit us, if you have an item, new or like new item, that would help someone in need, someone who is homeless, please bring it. And there's a place for it, and we'll take it all.
All right. It's a great way to give back to the community. At the same time, you refresh your own senses and really celebrate the reason for the season. Some people think that's cliche by now, but honestly, it's something that people can revisit, especially as holidays get stressful, because you feel burdened by, purchasing gifts and going to parties, and you're maybe searching for the meaning. And this is a celebration of the birth of Jesus Christ. From 11 a.m. until 8 p.m., free admission tonight through Sunday. And that concludes with that Christmas devotional, again, at the North 5th Street LDS Church. So everybody is invited to be there. And Julie, you assembled a great cast of folks to come out and talk about this today. Again, I sure appreciate it.
You know, I have to beg and grovel, but yeah. It's better than listen to me drone on for a half an hour. So
No, we appreciate all the stories. And Jim, thanks. I know you're probably headed back up there to help get things, smooth over anything that needs, any more sheep that need corralling, herding.
The shepherds are back.
Okay, good. So thanks, Jim. And thank you so much, Jane.
You're very welcome.
Appreciate that. And Francine is over here quietly, but Francine for lending her family support and coming over from Utah. Can hardly wait to see those quilts. So I'm going to be going up there shortly, and so we'll bring you some pictures for the TV, and look forward to everybody coming out. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for having us. We always enjoy coming and speaking with you.
Oh, thanks. It's really
Lori.
my pleasure, my inspiration too. So thanks for reminding us all. Hopefully we've got to everything we intended to today. If we left out anything,
There's so much going on. You just have to come up or look for the little blue cards that are around town or on our Facebook or website so that you can get all that information. So,
all right. Sounds great. Thanks again, listeners, for joining us for today's program.